Hey, what's up, Liron here. It is time for the last video in our series of drawing people. We've been building up towards this moment and hopefully you enjoy these. I try just making the videos the most easy to understand that I can without really regard to keeping it shorter or making it more digestible. Hopefully that worked out for you so far. In this one, what I'm going to do is tackle a few poses, and I'm going to put links to everything in the description box below if you want to check out the reference photos yourself. I tried using something that is suitable for work, so no real nudity, but is a very clear view of the human figure that allows us to basically draw it. Now, the framework for this video is going to be as three-dimensional shapes. You may not know anatomy, you may not know how to draw the anatomical details, you may be unfamiliar with the shapes of muscles and bones and all of that. We're going to throw all this aside. Of course, I may show some of it, but for the most part, this is going to show how we build towards that structure using the previous lessons on cubes and boxes and then cylinders. And we're going to touch a bit upon spheres as well. But if you do things right, if you work really hard on mastering cubes and boxes and spheres and cylinders, but especially cubes, because cubes are the most specific, right? They have a top plane, right, left, bottom, all of the different planes. They force you to be specific. If you master that and you master cylinders, you're good to go, and you can recognize the angle at which a limb moves and how to draw that. You can draw a simplified model of the human figure. It is not about knowing the anatomical details necessarily. That's not the reason most people make mistakes. It is a part of it, but a lot of it comes down to recognizing the simple three-dimensional shape that is behind the scenes, that works its magic, and then knowing how to draw that accurately. All the rest, it's just like in painting, where the most important thing is the main shapes of value and then the details play their role. It's exactly the same thing. So without further ado, let's get to it. So we'll get started, and as I mentioned, the focus is going to be on the 3D orientation. Even if you don't know anatomy, I think that's the best way to tackle it. So let me just get started here with this first pose. And this isn't necessarily easy when you look at a person standing like that. Idle poses tend to be a little more challenging sometimes, actually, but I want to share with you a few tips and tricks and things I learned along the way that can help you with that. So let's start with the head here. I'm going to simplify it to just a sphere. Now, we didn't talk much about spheres, but I want to show you something really cool. Now, let me zoom in a bit. So the way the head appears in this pose is it faces to the right and a little up. Now, I'm actually planning on representing it with a box, not with a sphere for now. Just spheres just for now, but I want to show you something cool. So a trick I learned from Marshall Vandruff is if you're uncertain of how to orient the box, right? Is it going like that? And then the head looks up to this direction. Is it more down, more up? It's sometimes a bit hard to tell. So what he showed in a couple of the videos that was very helpful is, imagine, because the head looks up just a bit and to the right, what we see when the head looks up, we see a bit of the bottom plane. So we can do this just to show, using an ellipse, that we see a little of the bottom, kind of like we did with cylinders, right? A bit of the bottom. And then we can also see a bit of the left side because the head is looking to the right. It's definitely not looking to the left. So a bit of that side here. And look at what we got here. We basically created almost a box. All we have to do is convert it into one. So these two lines create this diagonal. See? This kind of a shape, diagonal. This goes down at another diagonal, and this goes up, but not straight up, but maybe a little to the right. Can you see? If you just follow the orientation of these shapes, and then all you have to do is complete it with some parallel lines. It's not the easiest thing to do necessarily. I don't expect you, definitely don't expect you to succeed doing this on the first try. But it's another way of kind of figuring out, okay, the head is looking to the right and a little above. Okay, it's just another way of analyzing it. So let's let's move on from this point and kind of continue. I'm gonna do it a different way than usually. Usually I start with gestures, but I just want us to analyze the 3D orientation of the body here. So we're not gonna start with a gesture. I may show you that later. Now, one very useful thing about these reference photos in particular is that they have these cross-contour suit kind of a thing, which is really useful. And again, I'm gonna link to them below. It's a couple of creators on DeviantArt. I believe it's a few of them that do this, and this is super helpful. So definitely check out the link and just give them support. If you're on there, you can, I think, like it or, you know, follow. That'll be great. So as for the neck, if you look at that cross contour line, it looks like we're almost looking at it not from below, which you would maybe assume because the head, we see the bottom plane of the head. But what happens with the neck, and this is where knowing a bit of anatomy will go a long way. I actually wanted to show you this, so it's a good reminder. The head is kind of oriented in space like this. The neck has a bit of a back angle. The rib cage has a bit of a front angle. The pelvis has then again a bit of a back angle. And then the legs, the upper leg is like this, front, and then the lower leg is back. And what this does is create the balance of the human form, okay? And that's really important. That's how it's like a spring, you see? Everything is kind of working together to balance it out. So what happens is, even though we're looking at the neck from below, which would make you think we'll see it like this, right? As a cylinder from below, because it's tilted forward a bit, instead of looking like this, it may end up looking like this, or even facing towards us like this, like the other way around. So we don't see the bottom, but we see the top, imaginary top. Sorry, I know you can barely see. But basically the neck tilts a bit forward. So we get kind of an average, and that's something that happens a lot with the human body. Sometimes the overall result is an average of everything else, and it's very hard to tell, so it's something you have to practice and get used to. Now, the next shape I want us to tackle is that torso, okay? The torso is going to be anything, let's say, almost or even below the belly button. Now, when you look at this, can you see how the lines go a little like that, in that direction? Which means we're looking at it slightly from below. But here's the thing, can you see how it's tilted also backwards? Which further emphasizes that. When it goes backwards and we look at it from the front, it tilts like this. So let's try, okay? Let's just try, even though we maybe don't know the anatomy as much. We have just a triangular, kind of a boxy shape, right? So it faces a little up, as I've shown you here, because we see the cross contour lines going like this, hinting that we're seeing an imaginary bottom plane if this was a cylinder, or an imaginary bottom plane if this was a box, right? Now, as for the orientation, it's pretty much straight towards us. So I'm going to draw the front side of the box, like so. And then I'm going to show a little bit of the bottom, like so. Okay? And that's how you orient, for example, in this one, the torso. Okay? Now, what happens with the pelvis? So look at the angle of the pelvis. It actually is angled like that naturally. Even when you're resting, the pelvis is tilted a little forward. Maybe I've got it a little extreme, but that's actually, it's close to the angle in which it can be found. So what this means is if we're looking from the front, we can see this top plane. Okay? So, and look where it's facing. It's facing a little bit to the right. Can you see that? So let's do that same method with an oval and see what we get. So if it faces a little up, we can see a bit of the bottom plane, right? And if it faces a little to the right, we can see a little bit of the left plane. And just like the head, right? And you can see this by this line here around her belly button. It goes like this. And just like that, we created the exact same way the pelvis, okay? Like we did with the head. So let's draw that in. Actually, I made a huge mistake, right? It faces down, not up. So if you cut it, that's great. Now I see that natural light disappears, so let me turn on the light here. So sorry, we'll have to go artificial even though I didn't want to. But I made a huge mistake. It's tilted forward, so we see the upper part and the left part. And what this gives us together is this diagonal connecting these two intersections. A little bit of the top and a little bit of the left. Okay, that's the actual angle. So let's place that in. And it's pretty much below. Now I'm going to show you a few methods that will make this look even better, okay, in just a few seconds. But I want you to first, let's go with that first, okay? So this is what we're looking at here, okay? So let's put it in. If we just take this dot here and place it somewhere around here, I just want to show you a way of doing this where you don't really have to know much anatomy, and it will still work. And it may look a little funny, but that's actually what the pelvis is like. That's how it's structured, to be at a bit of an angle, right? Now it can be a little wider than the torso, depending on the specific body's structure. That's pretty much what you'll get usually. It tilts forward. Now the legs come out of that. But how do they come out of that? Not from the bottom, kind of from the front, and I'll show you why maybe later, but not from the top for sure. There's a bit of a gap here because of a few groups of muscles, and the muscles of the leg attach here. But all of that is not as important. I want to show you again how to attach that as kind of a three-dimensional object. Okay, sorry, the computer, the screen fell asleep. So what happens is, from side view, that's what I think at least, the leg does something like this. One of the legs goes back a bit and then back even more. And the other leg, where the balance is on, is kind of doing this. Now, I will show you something cool that can help. You can do a gesture just for a specific part of the body, and that means let's capture the overall motion. So this leg, for example, does something like this. And here's the foot, something like that. Whereas the other leg goes a little back and then does this, okay? Maybe something like that. That can help you just to see the overall shape, but it's not a must. I want to show you again. If this is the bottom of the pelvis, we can just put these lines to help us out to show where the legs attach. And this leg moves away from us. You see here, away from us, we're looking from the front. So we're gonna see the lines going that way. It's a cylinder that goes that direction. So if this is approximately where that leg's cylinder ends, and then it attaches somewhere around here and somewhere around here, and this is where these cross contour lines go, okay? So we got the leg in as a solid cylinder. And this top plane, you just can't see it because the leg attaches to the pelvis. So it's there, right? It does exist in theory, but you don't see it because the leg that's where it's already attached to the pelvis. Okay, so just one important thing to have in mind is, and the other leg does kind of the same thing. The knees are almost the same height, but there's a bit of a diagonal up here. And then this goes in curves like that. And the leg attaches from here, but because of the muscle, it doesn't attach straight. That's the bone will come out of the side of the pelvis. But because of the muscle shape, the quads mainly, it's gonna go like that, see? And then this part of the cylinder, and we're gonna get kind of a similar angle, maybe a little less curved. Here it's a little more curved because the leg goes more to the back here, you see? And here it's a little more front facing. Okay, so we got two cylinders for the legs, hopefully not too confusing. Again, this isn't easy, right? But I want to show you how you turn these simple three-dimensional shapes into something that makes up the human body. Okay, and then this part of the leg goes even more back. So what we see is, instead of this angle, it goes even rounder. Okay, so starts from here perhaps and goes back like that, and then curves like this. And of course we're dropping all the muscles and all the other details, right? Of course, if we'd actually go for a little bit more of an accurate sketch, we would use more straight shapes for the knee probably. So this is where it kind of, that's the sharpest transition, and you'll have something like that, connecting the two cylinders. But not here, it's not as important. Same goes for this side, right? You have to find the angles, you have to simplify it into a box. It's not something that's easy to do, and we haven't gotten into it, so I don't want to go into it too much here. And then the other leg,
same thing. And that's the cylinder for that. A little less curved once again. Moves a little less away from us compared to this one. And then for the leg, there are a lot of ways of simplifying the leg, but they don't fit into the mold of what we've seen so far. One way I like to do it is using a kind of trapezoid or triangular shape for the top plane, and then you can kind of complete the side plane like that. See? So you can use a lot of simple shapes for these kinds of things. And here we just see that top triangular shape almost exclusively, right? But yeah, that's just one way of doing it, and it's not necessarily the most accurate. Now, as for the hands, so this is interesting. So we have one arm that goes in this direction, right? It comes out of the side here. It's a little more complex what actually goes on here, but that's fine. And you can actually see it's facing a little towards us. And what I mean by that is like this. This is the bottom invisible part of the cylinder, because the lines go at a slight angle like this. They're definitely not going this way. So one more thing to have in mind. Now, of course, the orientation will change if you widen your angle a bit. So, for example, if you have a very tall cylinder, maybe you're looking at this part from below it and this part from above, right? And this is right your height. But overall, the way I'm treating the limbs here is just as one shape that is consistent in the angle. So it's just consistent, right? Even though this part of the leg could actually be like this, and then it goes curvier, and you can actually see this on the reference photo. The curves start a little gentle on the leg, on her right leg that's to our left, and then it goes a little more, see, a little more curved. That indicates that the orientation, of course, depends on our placement, the viewer, the point of view. So now the hands, in terms of length, it's similar to, I would say, the way we portray the pelvis here. Okay, and then this goes the other way. You can see the curves going like this, here they're going like that. So this faces towards us, this faces away from us. The top invisible top plane is going to be here, but here it's here below. And that's a very common dynamic. One hand facing towards us, another away from us, right? And then the other part of the hand is kind of like that, with the cylinder ending around here. I know I'm a little messy, sorry about that. And then the hand, we're not going to go into hands here at all. Actual palms. Same goes for this cylinder, but look at what happens here. This one is really facing towards us. Look at how much these lines are curved. Let me clean it up a bit. This line here is very curved, see? Because it's facing towards us. And the hand ends actually anatomically, if you want to be more accurate, with a square. The wrist is more square, whereas the top part of the hand is a little rounder. If I were to enlarge on that, what you'd get is a cylinder that faces towards us, kind of like that. But as it goes up, it turns into a square. So the wrist is going to be something like that. Towards us, with a bit of a sharp angle here maybe. But as we get more to the bottom, it goes rounder. And we can actually convey it with the cross contour lines. Round, and then more straight lines to show the side section, right? Now look at the shapes we're using here. We're using boxy shapes, right? We're using cylinders. And this is why it's just very important to learn these, right? Everything I showed you in the previous videos, you have to work on. You have to devote a lot of attention to them. And people always want to jump into the stage of the figure, but that's just not how it works. That's not the best way to approach this. You're far better off truly mastering, and I'm looking for my dark pencil, truly mastering these basic shapes, and then you can, you know, place whatever you want on them. Now, if I were to just real fast turn it into a person, I just want to show you how it all bases on these simple shapes. There's the head, and here's the bottom of the chin that faces down, and then the neck, right? And then there's a gradual kind of angle towards the bottom. The neck connects to the pelvis here, to the torso here. And then the way the rib cage works, it's going to be something like that. I'm just putting in a few small details to complete this one, perhaps. Okay. And notice this interesting tilt in direction. This aims here, and this aims there. And then here there's a drop. Remember, the leg doesn't connect on the top. The belly button is somewhere around here, right? And then this goes onto the leg cylinder. Other leg. Kind of exaggerated them a bit, but that's fine. Not because I wanted to, just because I was inaccurate. But you see how this turns into an actual human form? It's all rooted and based in those very, very simplified shapes. You have to start with those, otherwise it's just going to be really difficult to move on to something like that. Okay, let's do another one. And I want to show you one more thing. This is something I didn't think I'd address necessarily, didn't plan to, but the bean, there's a video, great video by Proco on the bean, which is very useful, I think, to watch. One thing it shows is when you have an orientation of where the torso is a little like towards us, and then the pelvis area is a little more to the right, like we've seen here, right? Torso is more towards us, pelvis is more to the left. By representing this as a bean, that's how Proco calls it, the torso is straight towards us, and then notice what happens here. There's a slight tilt to the right. Can you see it here? And that's the pelvis. Now look, I just want to show you one particular thing here. This is something you need to dive deeper on and learn how to do yourself. But when you find different ways of simplifying the human form, you can actually do a lot with it. So let me show you. This again represents the torso. You can imagine the neck connects somewhere here, but it's not as important. And this represents the entirety of the lower part, including the pelvis, the stomach, everything. This is facing in that direction. Can you see the lines going a little like this? And what Proco teaches is to exaggerate it so that the top part goes like that. So it almost, instead of it facing slightly towards us and then facing a lot towards us, he actually goes with that curve and does it the other way around. Now look at the effect we've got here, this beautiful motion. Now what happens is, based on this motion, you'll get the sides influenced by that. So for example, this is where the rib cage meets the stomach or something like that. This line is the line we're gonna follow. So look at this. It goes up, and then it stops, and it is replaced by this line. That's how the overlap happens. And on the other side, it's going to be the other way around. Look, again, we're following this line, and like that. And what we were able to convey here in a pretty effective way is that twist. But here's the thing, right? It's going to take you time to learn the bean method. Just search YouTube, the bean method, Proco, you'll find it, right? But the reason I'm showing you this is there are plenty of ways of mastering or tackling drawing the human form. And if you just try to draw it as you see it, you may run into a lot of obstacles. So I want you to dive deeper on every step. But the first step, before you even do this, is those boxes that I've shown you and those cylinders. That's the thing that precedes all of that, funny enough. This is relevant to everything. Boxes, cylinders, and I would say spheres, a little, just a little bit of that. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to go to the basics to get these things done. So let's do another pose. Let's do this dude here. Again, links to everything in the description box. And this is a more dynamic pose, so it's a little more fun in a way, I think. And we're going to start the exact same way. Now, usually I will, again, do a gesture. If you want me to show you more gestures, just let me know in a comment. But for now, we're going to steer clear of that because it's a completely different skill set. I want you to look at the orientation and angles. So the head, if we just have to simplify it into a relatively simple oval, I guess that's kind of the angle. And hopefully you can see this. Even if you wouldn't know to do it, you can kind of see this. It's at a bit of an angle. There. Now, what parts of it do we see? We definitely see the right side of the face. And we see the top, because if you look at the hair, you can see, can you see under the chin? You can. You can see the hair. So what happens is, this is the orientation, somewhere in that direction, right? So look at these two overlaps again, between these two cylinders we've drawn. Basically, you see the right side, you see the top part. They intersect here, right? Look at this. 1, 2. They intersect here and here. And if we connect that, we get a line, right? Now, where's the long axis of this oval we just drew? Like this. Where's the long axis of this oval we drew? Like that. And then all you have to do is fill it in with parallel lines. And we basically got the orientation of the head. Okay? See where it looks? It kind of is that angle. It's probably rotated even more to the left and I kind of missed that, but that's fine. Normally the way I would structure these, I'll show you just real fast, is I'll draw first an oval for the, I guess, the cranium of the head, and then I have to understand the angle. Is it diagonal? Is it straight? It looks a little diagonal here. It's tilted down, so I'm gonna tilt it down like so. And it's tilted left, right? So what we're gonna see is more of this right plane. And I trained myself to see exactly where that transition is, and it's gonna be something like that, okay? And then what we're gonna do is use a straight line to convey the front of the face. I'm gonna just get rid of that sphere I put earlier. And then use a straight line to convey the side plane, which is the angle between the edge of the eyebrow to the ear. I'm not expecting you to be able to do any of that. I'm just showing you how I would construct the head. And then this line is parallel to this line. And then we find the center line. Drop a line in that angle I did initially. Connect the bottom of this side plane like this using parallel lines. Measure this same distance down here and get the chin. Something like that. And then connect it to the jaw. Like this. It dips a bit in because of the eye socket, dips back out, and connects here. And that's how you use the Loomis method for getting the orientation, shape of the head, if you will. But we're not gonna do that because that's way more complex. We're just gonna use a box. And look at this box, it's the same. It's the same box we have here. See? Same orientation almost. That's why this is so important. This is crucial. Now I have to erase this because I put it exactly where I was gonna draw. Sorry about that. And let's start. Let's put in the neck. So can you see its base kind of popping around here? Can you actually see this rounded shape? This is where it meets the rib cage, okay? Because as I've shown you, it's aimed a little forward like that. So because we're looking from above, the lower part of the connection, we're actually looking at a cylinder from above like this. And this is under the face, okay? We can't see this part. And then it connects to the rib cage. Now, let's think about it for a second. What do we have here? How can we portray the entire upper body as a three-dimensional shape, as a box, if you will, okay? It's actually gonna be very simple. If you can just do this and create it as an oval, you're done. Well, let me show you why, okay? First, angle. If you look at it, can you see there's a very mild angle to the right? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Follow that mid area, the pecs, can you see them? And then it goes a little to the right to get to the belly button. So there's a bit of a diagonal here. Now what's the length? You should actually measure it. And I find that it's the exact length of the head, all the way down to the belly button. Okay? So if this is our long axis, what's the ellipse gonna look like? This. If this is the long axis, the ellipse is like this, right? If this is the long axis, the ellipse is like this. The length we already decided, it's here. So that's gonna be our ellipse. Now, we're looking at it at an extreme angle from above, actually. So we see the top plane of that imaginary shape. Like here, we looked at her from the front and a little below, right? You remember this curve here? So we didn't see the top plane, we saw the bottom plane. Remember that? Because it was tilted above. So we saw the bottom plane. Here it's the other way around. We see the top plane. So just like we did with the head, top plane. Now, can we see the side planes? I would argue a bit. We can see a bit more of the right side, but it's a very gentle tilt. So I'm gonna put it as a gentle ellipse, okay? What's the angle that these two ellipses create together? It's this. And then this is the top. plane representing the entire top of the body. And again, if you look at that area, there isn't an actual plane there. We're representing the entire upper body as a box, okay? It's just a box. And then this angle goes like this, goes like that, goes like this, goes like that, and we basically got the entire upper part of the body tilted towards us. That's pretty much it. Okay, now look at this hand, and I know it's not easy. I'm just showing you again how to interpret it into 3D shapes. You have to do with it, you know, the homework to work on improving every one of these steps. But look at this hand. It goes in this direction, right? Something like that, something like this. Let's measure its length. So I would say it's almost the same as the head too. So it's going to end somewhere around here. Now, is it facing away from us, towards us? That's something that confuses many people, and this time we don't have a bodysuit to hint it towards us. But the way I'm familiar with the human form and the way I look at it, it appears to me like it's facing slightly towards us. This part of the hand definitely faces towards us. It's definitely oriented straight ahead at us. But I can tell that this cylinder also does just a bit, meaning the side that's closer is this side. So we get an oval that is kind of like that. And this goes in that direction. Again, cylinders, that's all there is to it. Cylinders. This is the exact same thing I've shown you in the previous lesson. Just this time it's in the context of a complete figure, okay? And this part of the arm is straight towards us, so let's delete the things that are invisible. And the cross contour lines are going to be so round, so extremely round, because it really does face towards us, where the wrist itself is going to be a little square. That's just anatomy, you don't have to learn that, that's fine. For now you don't have to know that, but that's going to be square. And this hand, arm, really faces towards us. And look at the difference in size, right? That's where objects that are closer to us appear to be much bigger. So his palm is much wider than the face, which doesn't make sense in real life, right? Something like that. I'm not going to draw it, but that's where the thumb is, and that's where the rest of the fingers are. Okay, kind of a basic structure for that. Now look at the other hand. Now let me ask you, just logically, is it moving towards us or away from us? You can probably tell it's moving completely away from us. Look at how small the hand is. And if we place it in space, if we continue this curve here, we'll end up around where it reaches. And so let me show you. We can even represent this as just one single cylinder that moves completely away from us. Here's the top part. And here's the bottom part, where the wrist is. Something like that. And it moves completely away from us. And then that's where the clenched fist is. You see? Away from us. And look at the difference in size. This hand looks much bigger than this one, because this one's closer to us, right? Now, as for the lower body, and let me zoom out a bit. I don't want this video to be too long, so we're probably going to end it after this pose. This is actually where it's very helpful to do a gesture, but I'm going to avoid it for now. We don't have a bodysuit, but look at what we do have. We have the underwear, and they're really showing us the orientation of every individual leg. So if you look at his right leg, which is to our left, you can see this curve. And the other one, you can see that curve. Now, what story does this tell you? This tells me that the leg is moving slightly towards us. Now, why is that? And some of you, again, still may have an issue with it. Let me show you how to figure that out. This curve, let's copy it to the top of the cylinder and to the bottom of the cylinder. Now, what side do we see as open? This side, right? Which is why this side is closer to us, okay? If the orientation was otherwise, and let me think about that for a second, because I may be mistaken. If this goes like that, and we see, no, I think that's correct, actually. It's very confusing, but I think that is correct. So if this part is, Yeah, okay, the confusion is because every object moves away and towards us as well, right? But my question is assuming that the leg is it getting closer to us as it stretches out? And in this case, the answer is yes, because this knee that stretches towards us, we can see that it's facing towards us, right? More than away from us. If you look at this part of the leg that faces away from us. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that's confusing. That's probably still confusing for some. Now look at where that leg comes out of, kind of behind. Because we're looking at such an extreme angle, it comes out from behind. As for length, I would say similar to the head as well, so somewhere around here. I'm just gonna copy this cylinder basically. Very gently towards us, like so, right? And then I'm gonna use a triangular angle for the bottom of the pelvis, just like we did here, right? And then so this leg is towards us, right? And you can actually get something really cool here with the knee. So if that's the knee, this goes away from us, and then you see a bit of the front plane of the knee merging into the leg. But that's a little more advanced. What's important is we see that the leg is moving towards us a bit. And it can be a little confusing for a couple of reasons that I didn't mention. Like one of them, this part of the cylinder is larger than this part. So you'd think to yourself, okay, larger is closer, but it's actually the other way around here. Okay, so just something to have in mind. If you have a shape that actually looks like this in side view, okay, that's the side view. Maybe it's a cone, a three-dimensional cone like that, right? But that's how it looks like in side view. If this is the part that faces towards you, the smaller part, it would still probably look smaller than the farther part, okay? So in this case, the farther is larger because of that skewing in size, right? Now, if you were to look at a shape that looks like this from side view, and maybe like this, slightly at an angle, of course, if it would have faced us, we'd see something like this, right? So something to have in mind. This still is closer to us, just like this still is closer to us. Same goes here with the leg. Even though the area of the knee is smaller, it still faces towards us and it's still closer to us. If anything, it makes that angle look a little less extreme. Right here you can see how extreme it is, but here it's a little less extreme because everything is squeezed in space. But here's where foreshortening and other really cool effects occur. So look at this other leg. This is our knee. If we were to draw an angle to the knee of the other leg, it actually goes up like this, and it's way behind, which is a really cool effect. And because of the dynamic angle we're drawing here, this leg moves away from us, like so. And you can tell again by the shape of the underwear, you can really see this kind of a, this kind of a thing, and I can just color it in, make it a little clearer, right? With the junk in the middle, but I'm keeping it suitable for work. So that leg goes way behind, whereas this leg is sent towards us. Now what about the lower leg? What part of it is closer to us? It's always a challenging question. In the upper leg, this part is closer to us. But what happens here with the lower leg? We can see the top of his foot. This probably indicates that the knee is closer to us than the ground, and you can really tell you're looking at this from above. So the leg does this thing where it goes like this, and it's going down away from us. Can you see that? It's moving away from us. The knee is actually closer to us. So if we look at it at side view, let's say that the leg is sent forward, and then the lower part meets the ground. We're looking at it from, let's say, this angle, and we see the knee closer to us than this part of the leg right here. But then the lower part of the leg, this is closer to us than this, and we actually see the top of the foot from our angle, the top of it, right? That's why this occurs. Probably even more extreme of an angle back, probably. So this is why this cylinder is moving towards us, the viewer, more than, like, this is closer to us. If we're here, this is closer than that. But this is also closer than that. So we get a shape that goes towards us and away from us. Towards us and away from us. Towards us and away from us. Okay? With the bottom being much thinner, probably. So something like that. The leg being a little smaller. There's a lot of things that go on here, and I'm not a master of legs yet. But generally, it will narrow significantly down. And look at how dynamic this scene is. This person really is running towards us. And if we compare distances, let's measure, for example, all the way from the belly button up and belly button down. It's about the same. Let's see if I was accurate, because I may have messed it up. It's pretty accurate, actually. It's pretty accurate. This should probably be a little longer. But other than that, I'm pretty spot on. And you get everything here. You get that tilt of the torso a little to the left, right? Not too much, so you see a bit of that side plane. You see a lot of the imaginary top plane, right? It's imaginary, but this is it's called the shoulder girdle. It's a little more complex than that, actually. Maybe something for a future video. A big hint is that you can see this line here. I don't know if you can tell, at the base of the hand there's this line here. That's where the delts, I believe that's where the delt muscles attach to the shoulder. Here you can see the, what do you call that? I always forget. And then you can see the shape of the clavicles go up here. The fact that you can see this indicates that you can see the top plane, but that's anatomy, and that's something different you have to learn in addition. But just to talk about three-dimensional shapes, that's how it works, right? Now, I don't want to do another one because it's going to be super long. Let's do a quick one where I just analyze a few of the shapes, okay? So, because this is such a cool dynamic pose. So we have this one here. She's jumping in the air, shooting. It's really cool. Now, if you look at the leg here, the leg cylinder, the one that's aimed towards us, again, look at how cool that is. You can feel how the knee is coming towards us, like that. And then you get this cylinder that is built like so. See? And then this is the area of the knee. And all of the cross contour lines tell that exact same story. See that? Now the other leg, and again, it gets a little more square-ish the moment we get to the knee. The knee is better represented with a lot of straight lines. But the other leg, it looks much longer because it's not facing towards us. We can see more of its length, right? Then it goes like this. We can see the quad muscles popping out a bit. This goes like that. And this is the pelvis. So remember I told you the leg doesn't attach to the top. It actually attaches a little below. But the most important thing is, you see the angle on this leg? It's slightly towards us. The knee is getting closer, but still, that's such a different angle. See? And then this leg moves really away from us, like so. And this moves more towards here, right? Now, I like to start with a gesture, as I mentioned. So what I do is I'll place a gesture for one leg, maybe something weird like that, and then another one for another leg, and then I'll start developing it into three-dimensional structures. First, I'll get the overall proportions, but that's a completely different topic, something I may talk about in a different video. But that's how you do it. That's how you turn simple cylinders into three-dimensional shapes that represent a human body. Again, an arm can be just two cylinders connected together, depending on the orientation of the arm, right? In this example, this part here, maybe it's the, what do you call it, the elbow is closer to us. Then on top of that, you can base your 3D structure, which I have no idea how to do it this weird of an angle, but let's say that's the delts, and then we have the biceps coming out of there, and we have the triceps at the back of the hand, and this all connects to the, again, to the, what do you call it? I keep forgetting, the elbow, and then here you have that square-ish shape of the hand, right? And then you get the ridge muscles, I think, somewhere around here, even though I have a lot to work on when it comes to hands, but you see a hand, right? And then the actual palm there, whatever. This is the left hand, probably. I don't know. I'm not even sure. But it's just an imaginary hand. This is not anatomically correct, but this is an arm, right? Just by using these cylinders. A leg, the same kind of a thing, right? Cylinder. And then this is maybe the knee. That's the basis for everything, which is why I urge you to learn it, which is why I've done 2 videos previously about this that I highly recommend you check out if you haven't. I want to thank you so much for this series. Let's wrap it up real fast, face to face.
Hey, so thank you so much for watching. Wanted to just wrap this series up face to face. I really do appreciate it. My apologies once again for no live streams this week. I'm taking a bit of time off and I wanted to just do videos for you and film them in advance. I will try and address any issues and questions you ask in the comments of all of these 3 videos because I really want to make sure that I make this as clear as I can. This is a complex topic. It is not an easy topic. And I want to make sure that I'm clarifying whatever I can. Maybe we'll do a consolidated Q&A video, I'm not sure. But in any case, by the time you watch this video, it's going to be Saturday. And the week after that, I'm going to go back to work full force and hopefully do some more watercolor videos for you and everything else. So thank you so much. Don't forget, leave a comment, leave a like, let me know you enjoyed this one and what else you want me to see. Subscribe if you still aren't. I would really appreciate your subscription. Hit the bell button. I don't often say this, but hit the bell button if you truly want to receive notifications for when there's a new video out. But new videos anyway every Tuesday, and then Thursdays are usually a live stream, and Saturday. Thank you so much. We'll see you again real soon.